the words itself, the words itself do two things. It has a personal effect on you in terms of minimizing the punishments or the suffering after death, as well as it strengthens existence of creation. So I don't know if this is what the Rebbe means, but perhaps what we talk about always is Hashem spoke and the world was created. So essentially the existence of creation is based on the fact that Hashem is speaking. There are letters which are animating and giving life to everything of creation. So when we study the Torah and we repeat words of holiness, I'm thinking perhaps that what it does is it strengthens the existing words already. You know, let's say you have writing and it gets a little bit faded, right? So you could retrace the letters, so the letters get stronger. Perhaps there's something like that in terms of repeating words of Tehillim or Mishnayos wherever you go. In this way, the letters are being reaffirmed. Okay, perhaps. We're on page Sadik Dalet, opposite 186, in the middle of chapter 4 of Iggeret Hateshuvah. We ended off yesterday that the difference between the neshama of a Jew and of an angel, and in general of all of existence, is that the neshama, that all of existence is connected to the name Elokim. However, the neshama of a person is connected to the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which is a higher name of Hashem, a greater revelation of Hashem. Okay, so we're on 5 lines from the bottom. Aval nishmas ha'adam, but the soul of a person, shehim b'bchinas pnimiyas ha'chayis, which comes from the innermost chayis, which we already spoke, right? That they're speaking and blowing. And the neshama of a person comes from Hashem's breath that's being expressed through blowing. So the neshama of a person, which is pnimiyas ha'chayis, is chelek shem Havaya Baruch Hu. It's actually a part of the name of Havaya. Kishem Havaya, because the name of Hashem, which is expressed in the 4 letters of Yud, Hey, and Vav and Hey, that name, Meira Pnimiyas ha'chayis, that illustrates the innermost life force, Shehi Lamayla Mayla B'chinas ha'esyes, which is even higher than the level of letters. So we have, again, there's letters, and he already mentioned earlier that the letter is a vessel. Then there's something higher than the letters, which is, in this case, the Pnimiyas ha'chayis, the Havaya. Bia Inyan, to explain this better, Kenaida Mimaim Eliyahu, as it's known from the teaching of Eliyahu Navi, as quoted in the Zohar, this is his teaching. Antu da pikas eser tikunim. You, Hashem, you have brought forth 10 tikunim, 10 ornaments or 10 emanations, v'korinun lahem, and you have called these 10 revelations, you call them Eser Sefirot, 10 Sfirot. And with these 10 Sfirot, L'anhaga b'hein almen sesimin v'chuli, with through and with these 10 Sfirot, you conduct the worlds, the hidden worlds, the revealed worlds. Turn to page 188 on the top. And Chakim, and the statement of Eliyahu Navi continues, you are wise, but not with a known wisdom. And Maven, you are the one who understands, or you are understanding, but not with a known understanding. All of the 10 spheres, nechlales, are included, v'nirmoses, and are alluded to, b'shem Havaya Baruch Hu, in the name of Havaya. Ki hayod, shehi b'chines nakuda lavad, the letter yud, which is a nakuda, which is a point or a dot, meramez the chachmasi yizbarach, this is hinting to Hashem's wisdom, shehu bebechinas helem v'hester, Hashem's wisdom is concealed, kaidem shaba lebechinas ispashta. So the letter yud refers to Hashem's wisdom, or be in a concealed way before it becomes b'chinas ispashtas v'gilui ha'asaga v'avana, before it gets expressed and revealed in understanding. That is the letter yud, the parentheses, v'hakut, v'hakaitz, sha'ala yud, and the fact that the letter yud, which is really the smallest letter in the Hebrew alphabet, which he said is hinting to the idea of God's wisdom, which is concealed. But the letter yud begins with a little, kaitz means a thorn. It begins with a little ornament. So v'hakait sha'ala yud, so the thorn which is on the yud, reimes, this is a hint, lebechinas ratzon elyon baruch hu, to Hashem's supernal will, shalamayla mayla b'madreges bechinas chachmei la k'neidah, which is even higher than the level of supernal wisdom as known. And after it becomes to the level of his pashtus, spreading out, expansion, and the revelation of understanding v'havana la'alman sesimin, to the concealed worlds, nechlales v'nemazes ba'es, this becomes included and hinted to with the letter hey. Sheyesh la bechinas hispashtos l'reichav, because the letter hey has expansion to the breath, hameira, which shows umarames, and hinting al hachaves habir, on the expansion of explanation, vavana. V'gam la'erech, also to the length, hameira al bechinas hamshacha v'hashpa, which shows on the level of hamshacha, drawing down v'hashpa, and influencing from above to below to the concealed worlds. After it gets drawn down from concealed to revealed, afterwards afterwards it gets drawn down even further to the lower worlds which are revealed. Just like ha'adam, a person, he wants to reveal his wisdom to others through speech. This level is already included and hinted to in the letters of Vav and Hey, ki avav meira al hamshacha milmayla lamata, because the Vav shows on a hamshacha, on a drawing down from above to below, v'gam hamshacha zu, and also, okay, let's stop over here for a minute. The Rebbe is giving us the mystery of how the 10 sfirot are hinted to in the 4 letters of Hashem's name. And again, When we talk about the 4 letters of Hashem's name, we're referring to the 4 letters of the name of Hashem, which refers to the intense light. In other words, even before essentially we really cannot even bring it into a vessel, and therefore we don't even mention the name. Okay. Let's start with some of the teachings he already gave us. We know that every letter, every Hebrew letter, Hashem created creation through the Hebrew language, the Aleph, the Beis, the Gimel, right? These letters turn into words, into sentences, that these letters convey God's energy from a concealed state into a revealed state. In other words, when we speak, we reveal what we're thinking. If you're reading someone's words, right, you're getting to know what this person once knew or what this person was thinking about. So letters are the means of transfer from inner to outer. So when the Almighty wanted to create, he took from himself, as if to say, he revealed himself in the form of creation. And he did that using what we call the letters. When we look at the English alphabet, the ABC, as far as I know, the English alphabet of ABC, the letters, the way they are written, there's no special significance in it. In other words, once they've already decided on the language that an A is an A, so when you look at the letter A, you'll know it's not the letter Z, but that there's a special significance in the fact that an A has, 2 sides to it, and then with a bar in the middle and a small bar on top that meets. No one thinks in those terms. We do know that, for example, for example, like in the Chinese alphabet, there are symbols. So the way the symbol is written, that conveys a completely different picture. In other words, there's actually meaning in the way the letter is written. But again, I don't know much about this. In fact, I know very little about this. But but that too, I don't know who made the picture of those letters. But once again, there's really no significance. In other words, if a person, for example, were to have a sloppy handwriting, whether it's hard to read the English language. He writes a letter, he writes a word, and it's difficult to make it out. Or even in the Chinese, if he does not have nice calligraphy, and he writes it in a very sloppy way, once you figure out what he was trying to say, it conveys the same meaning as if it would have been a perfectly written letter. But in the mystical tradition, we are taught, and this is translated into Jewish law, if a letter in Hebrew is written sloppily, then it will not, even if you know what the letter is supposed to be, that letter will not convey divine energy. And that's why we all know that a beautiful Torah, a beautiful mezuzah, is not only based on the parchment but it's also very much connected to the beauty of the writing. And in Jewish law, if there's a letter that's written incorrectly, to the extent it's just missing a tiny bit of ink, we actually would read it as if it was the letter was completely filled in. But there's something missing. If you look at it, there's a crack, then, and many times the Torah scroll is not valid, the mezuzah is not valid, and either has to be discarded or rectified. So it's clear that the letter is much more than the meaning of the letter. Even the shape of the letter will affect the divine energy that's in it. In general, again, just to make a lahavdil, to make a separation, as a rule, a capitalized letter and a small letter in English doesn't really make much of a difference. There are rules of grammar, if it's a pronoun, if it's the beginning of a sentence, but essentially an A remains an A, whether it is capitalized or not. In Judaism, when in the Torah, if there's a letter which is written capitalized, as if to say bigger, like a big aleph, or there's a letter that's written unusually small, not only is there numerous explanations as to why, but the size of the letter brings out a different form of divine energy. I say this half in jest. We all know that if you get an email and all of the letters are capitalized, the guy writes back and he says, "Why are you shouting at me?" Now it's clear that it's just electronic stuff. What do you mean he's shouting at you? But the way it's translated today through common usage, that if you want to emphasize something, you might use exclamation points, you might use capitalized letters, and depending on the message that's being conveyed, at times you could read a sentence and say, "This man is trying to shout at me." Why? But again, this is our interpretation. There's really no difference for the computer in terms of energy about a bigger letter or a smaller letter. In Yiddishkeit, in our holy tradition, there are major differences. So every letter is not only, God forbid, it's not arbitrary. Every letter is another component in creativity. Every letter is the way Hashem reveals another godly energy. Clearly, within the letters itself, if, for example, I were to say the word stone in Hebrew, very simple word, even, right? Aleph, Beis, and Nun. And as the Rebbe explained to us in his previous section, in Shayichud ve'emuna, which we studied together, where he writes that those three letters have divine energy in it, and they actually comprise the essence of a stone. The essence of a stone is, in other words, if we looked at it under a microscope, we might see first the stone, then we might see what minerals are found in the stone. But if we looked at it through spiritual glasses, we would actually see this stone is divine energy in the form of Aleph, Beis, and Nun. But yet, you're allowed to write those words and you're allowed to erase those words without any interference. You're not interfering with the cosmic destiny of stones. Lahavdil, again, a separation. I have a name. So we believe my name is Aaron, so I have 4 letters in my Hebrew name, Aleph, Hey, Resh, and Nun. And we are taught to believe that the very life force which keeps me alive is found in those 4 letters. Well, what happens if I write down those 4 letters? This is my name, and then I throw it out or even burn it. It's not going to really affect me because the letters of my name, which are said. So if you said the word, or I say Aaron, 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 the whole day, it's not going to affect me. So saying those letters or destroying those letters doesn't really affect me, though they are in some way connected to me. What's the proof? When I see a letter addressed to Aleph, Hey, Resh, Nun, I think that might be to me. And certainly if I'm a room of 10 people and I am the only one that has this name, when I hear those 4 letters being uttered, Aaron, then of the 10 people, only one will turn around. And when I say turn around completely. It's not like it will make my fingers tingle. No, I will turn around completely from top to bottom. So clearly these 4 letters have a connection to me, but the way it's connected to me is in a very mysterious way. It has to be my letters within me, not the way these letters are outside of me. What would be, though, if we say that Hashem has a name, Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, Mem? So now when I say I will actually pronounce it, but I'm referring to the word Elokim, meaning judge. So it's actually a Hebrew word. For example, in the Torah, when it says if 2 people have a disagreement, Ad ha'Elohim yovei dvar shneim, they should go to the court of law. So if I say Elohim and I'm referring to a court of law, I'm allowed to say that name. But when I refer to Hashem, who's the source of justice, then already I cannot, should not, I'm not permitted to say those letters. Not only because, as we understand it, it's showing disrespect, but more so, the letters of Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, Mem have an energy, have a power, which is beyond the letters of Aleph, Beis, and Nun, or my name, Aleph, Hey, Resh, Nun. This refers to something of a godly manifestation. We don't want to, as if to say, elicit or bring down an energy when it's not necessary. Within the names of God, and again, now is not the time for it, but we've already touched upon this many times because this is a theme in Hasidic thought, how a name has 2 parts to it. There's the aspect of a name which is an appendage, it's something in addition, something external. And then there's a part of a name which is connected to the essence and to the internal. So when we say that Hashem, there are 7, legally speaking, there are 7 names in which a Jew does not say those names unless it's a formal request or a prayer. Otherwise, it would be at best disrespectful to say those names. You can say my name as much as you want. It's not disrespectful. It doesn't connect to me. But to say the name of Hashem, we do not, because each name is bringing forth almost as a prayer to bring forth a new emanation or a certain quality. Within those 7 names, there's a name which we cannot pronounce even when we're in prayer, even when we're formal, even when we want to be most respectful. and those that is the name of the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. We call it the ineffable name. I think there's a fancy Greek word for it, tetragrammaton or something to that effect, because it has actually 72 ways to enunciate it. Says the Rebbe that this name of the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey actually is encapsulated all of creation. These four letters almost are a map from the hidden to the revealed. So we'll talk more about this tomorrow, but just to end very quickly, the Yud, which is the smallest letter, literally a Yud could be seen as a dot. The Yud symbolizes the hidden, the mysterious, the wisdom of God, which is unknown. The letter Hey, in contrast to the letter Yud, is remarkable because the letter Yud is just a dot of its concentration. The letter Hey has a length and it has a width. It has a bar on the top. It has a bar which is vertical going down, and then there's a small Yud within it. So that symbolizes the expansion of the Yud. It's as if the Yud expanded both in length and in breadth and in depth. From concealment, it became revealed. Then there's the letter Vav, which incidentally, the letter Vav also starts with a Yud. It's just that the vertical line keeps going downwards. Then we have the letter Vav, which is 6, which refers to how it now the expansion or the revelation of God's creative energy is now going to be expressed through different worlds, or in particular through the 6 attributes. And finally, the last letter Hey, you remember the first letter Hey was expanding on the Yud. The last letter Hey is expanding on the Vav. That goes together, Vav Hey. And that letter Hey is already referring to Malchus kingship. So this is going to lead into this idea that every time we do something which is not according to the will of God, we're going to be separating the letter Hey, the last letter Hey, from the previous 3. And Teshuvah will mean to bring that back. Obviously, this is a very profound and holy thought. We'll study it again tomorrow and the day after, and something, of course, will penetrate. You know, it's so interesting. When I was preparing, the Rebbe made an interesting comment. In the Talmud, it says, though we cannot bring sacrifices today, but when a person studies about the temple, he studies about sacrifices, in a certain form and manner, he's bringing a sacrifice. So the Rebbe basically said, when one studies the laws of Teshuvah, especially when we're studying it from the great master, the Alter Rebbe, we're reading his words, trying to understand it. Of course, the goal is not merely to keep it academic. We're studying an aspect of Torah. The goal, of course, is that we should improve. But at the same time, the very fact that we're studying what's the Alter Rebbe called Iggeret Hateshuvah, the letter of Tshuva, that too is that too is an effective form of actually doing the Teshuvah. Okay, let me wish you all a good day. Those of you that will be joining us at noon will be discussing a mitzvah. Okay, good day, everyone.
Thank you. Good day. Thank you. Bye.